Give him another round of applause. I'm very excited to be here right now. So I think there's a lot of people that are already initiated, but for the uninitiated, who is Parson James, the man and the artist?
Parson James is a boy from South Carolina who grew up with a single mom in a crazy Baptist-run community that inspired me to break out, write about my experiences, and turn those experiences into songs. I grew up as a gay man with a white mother and a black father, and the community that I grew up in, I think because the size of it and the beliefs were so, pushed down everyone's, in their brain so much, we were cast out a lot. So those experiences really inspired me, but just by feeling outcast and stuff. And so I started writing, and ultimately my first record started and became pretty much therapy for me to, escape those situations through songs.
So what were some of those beliefs, the negative beliefs that you said come from the church?
Anybody from the
community?
South in here? Like, anybody? I don't know. I came from a place in South Carolina. It's like a 3,000 person community. And the beliefs were pretty much archaic. It was, blacks don't date whites. Gays are the devil. Go to church every Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or else you're a heathen. So, and I believed that for a while, because if you're raised in a community and you're around, like, okay, maybe I am something's off here.
Were you getting those messages from the church in particular, or was it the community, or was it a little bit of both?
I was closeted for a very long time, so it was just that my instincts were so good. And even within my family, like my dad's side and my mom's side, she was pretty much ejected for having a black boyfriend. She was thrown out of her house and she left, and she didn't live with her family again from 16. So when you see the judgment coming so harshly from even your own family, it's just, you question a lot of things, and it's an interesting way to grow up.
And it's a very negative way, when you're getting all of that messaging about being gay is bad and this. How did you overcome that?
Truly, there comes a certain point where I felt like I was going to claw myself out of my own skin, because hiding something for so long is just difficult, and just the fears and the pretending and that sort of thing, it just really bothered me. And I honestly came to New York with my mom on a trip when I was 16, and granted, I'd never been any further than like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at that point. So life was, movies and the internet, the dial-up that we had at the time. And I got here and I saw people just living so freely, walking hand in hand, and I just was like, whoa, life can be what you want it to be. It's not just this bubble that I'm in right now. So I looked at my mom and I was like, I'm going to graduate early and I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to be a singer. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And so I came here at 17 and I started just, it was just something that I had to do. I can't really explain it any other way. It was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to crumble. So I just had to remove myself from the situation that I was in and go to somewhere completely unfamiliar and learn how to thrive and survive.
And what were those early experiences like in the city while you were a young gay man, exploring the city, doing your music? What was that like for you?
I've always been able to, I have great social skills. I go out a lot. And I just, got here and I was like, I have to just make my rounds. I have to meet people. I have to, take the train and get lost a bunch of times so I can always find my way back. I need to just learn the city, make the city mine. And so from 17, my goals were always go out as much as possible, go downtown, go, sign up for open mics, go, go to jazz clubs, meet this person who's singing on stage tonight, who has the residency, meet that person, how'd they get it? So it was a lot of just kind of socializing around the city and meeting one person to the other person and, finding any place that would let me in, really. I remember one of the first things I did was there was a place, it's not open anymore, it was called Ella Lounge on 2nd and 2nd, I think. And they had this...
Second and Second has changed a lot. Yeah, I know there's a pet store there now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At that time, they had this singing competition, American Idol style format or something. And you go in, you sing covers every week, and it was an 8-week process. It was a very long process, but I think coming from South Carolina and being one of the only singers within my community, really, I was oh, I'm a good singer, but then you get here and you're oh, so is everyone else. So that experience helped me overcome nerves and stuff on stage and learn a lot about how to perform and engage. And at the same time also taught me that I needed to figure out what made me interesting enough to have my voice stand out from
And to you,
the rest.
what is that?
That was honestly tapping into my story and putting it in writing form and creating an identity that was me and music that was mine, and not just singing covers or writing about love that I wasn't even in, or those sort of things. I actually just had to think back, like, what has affected me the most. And from my first EP, the Temple EP, those things were pretty much just growing up and being unable to express the way that I felt. So that's where I started tapping into the artistry.
Now, earlier on, did you ever get any messages from people that were saying, like, maybe you shouldn't be out, maybe you should go back into the closet for a music career? Because being an openly gay artist now, this is still something that's very new. So did you ever get those messages?
Yeah, there's a few things. There's concerns, and even within, like, who was interested in me in terms of the music industry as I was progressing a little more and being heard. I remember, you get yourself excited, especially in the beginning. You're just like kind of wanting something to change and something to happen, and you're working so hard and you're trying, and one manager or something is interested in you, and it's like, oh my God, life's about to change, and you get all hyped up. And I remember one particular experience. I had a weekly residency at a place called Duane Park, which is a burlesque place, and it was an interesting spot for me to sing at while burlesque dancers are all around me, and I'm singing like "Ain't No Sunshine."
Just female or male and female?
Female, yeah.
Okay.
And I was getting like $25 or something. It was amazing. But I remember a manager was interested in me, and he was at some level had some sort of clout with a big producer or something. And he came, and he had initially loved everything about me and my music and stuff. And afterwards he said, yeah, that was, you're good, but maybe you should just like tone down, the flamboyancy. And I didn't know like really what he was talking about. I've just always been myself, and I continue to be myself, and if that is flamboyant, great.
As you should.
And I just remember being really hurt that like that's the reason that we're not having any further conversations, because you have to change this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a few other times, people here and there, but you get to a certain point where you have to just understand that no opinion is unanimous, and you have to just do you. And
Absolutely.
so I'm learning that constantly, but.
And so I want to get into more about the music, because it's described as conflicted pop gospel. I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have to break that down for me. Like, what exactly is that?
Is that when I was first, making the label rounds, and I had this EP together, and my first single was called Sinner Like You, and it was basically a poem that I had written to my mom about coming out, and how it was, me coming out to everyone else as well, and like all that sort of, that thing. And every label asks the same question: how do we describe your sound? And people are like, you got a soulful voice, you got this or that. And I just remember thinking like my life was based on so much confliction, because I was battling with like, am I wrong? Am I right? Like, are they right? And that was a big part. Confliction was a huge part, and I was constantly being preached sermons and gospels that I really couldn't connect or believe in. And so one day, someone in one of the record label settings asked me, like, what is your sound? I said, conflicted pop gospel. Like, so proud. And I think that at the time, like, and, kind of even still it bleeds through. It is, I struggle a lot sometimes when I think back on a few things, even in love and stuff, with the confliction. And my music definitely pulls on elements of gospel. I love choirs. I love organs. I love the sonics of that style of music that was so present in my life. So, yeah, when you listen to a Parson James record, you're definitely going to get the feels and feel like you're in church a little bit.
Yeah, you can get the feels and the chills and everything else. So speaking of that Temple EP, so you have a song on there, Stole the Show, which is, I know that was the platinum, right? First platinum single? How's that feel?
Weird. Crazy. I don't know, because the song was written years ago, and I wrote it with a friend of mine named Kyle here, like down the street from here, actually. And it was on piano, and we loved it. Everyone, I still think that that song in particular is one of my favorites, and just because of the emotion behind it and where it came from. And I just remember we listened to it for a year, or then 2 years, and then all of a sudden, we were approached by a DJ that wants to remix it, and we're like, let's take a chance.
And that was the moment.
Yeah,
That
and it
just
wasn't like
exploded.
it wasn't like in my head I was like, this will be very popular on blogs, because I don't know anything about the DJ world. The genre that the DJ came from was really not created yet. It was a weird sound to me. I thought it sounded weird. I was like, but this could be cool. And, within the first week, we saw that we had something crazy. So that was
Nice.
like kind of the pivotal moment, yeah.
Tell us about the new single, Only You.
Wearing the same jacket. I was like, I
nice.
want to stay on brand.
It's because it's a
And,
fucking
like-
cool jacket, so why not wear it?
Yeah, this single is super special to me. At this phase in my life, I'm coming out of a 3-year relationship, which I will consider my first real one. That was someone I was living with, someone I was sharing my whole entire life with from whenever I was basically homeless up until months later. Just a few months later, in the beginning of our relationship, I was signed and we were doing crazy things all around the world. So life was a bit crazy with this particular person, and things change. Having relationships and doing what I do is sometimes presents its difficulties, and when you're just introduced to your dream, like you see it's happening, it's like you have to battle, like, do I keep chasing what I've been dreaming about my whole life, or like what do I do? And sometimes you have to think for yourself. And
So that was a choice.
It
was the choice that you
ultimately
made.
came down to that. And so what basically happened is, we got to a place where we couldn't be together anymore. And I thought that the best option for me was to just escape. So within like a week or two, I had decided I'm moving to LA. So I live in LA now. And it sounds like a good idea because you're not going to be around the person. But then living by yourself in a new city, waking up and you're used to someone else being beside you, it's just an odd feeling. And for a bit, I got a little destructive, and I got like a bit. I lost myself. I think I lost myself in the relationship, but I was losing myself even more that first move. And so then this song comes from a place of where I was like, I think I'm making a mistake. And I think that I don't deserve to be loved by anyone else. And I think that I won't be loved by anyone else. This is just kind of, I don't know if everyone goes through this, but like
They do.
Okay. And so I was just feeling like maybe I made the wrong decision and maybe I need to reach back out. And we figured this out. Even though we were so destructive with each other and hurting each other constantly, I was like, it's only you, really. That's where it came from.
So this is about that person.
This is about that person.
Do you think of him when you perform it live? Is it like every time you listen to it, do you think of him in that relationship?
I have thankfully come to such a different place in my life. After the few months of just dealing with the natural battles of losing your best friend or significant other, finding yourself again is a really amazing feeling. And when I sit back and listen to this song now, I've had so many times where I have to think about this. I feel like there's a part of me that was writing this song to me as well. Not only just me, but there was probably a part of me that was writing it up to music as well. Because, like I said, in this relationship, I think I lost a bit of myself because, again, we're going back to conflicting thoughts of like career, love, that sort of thing. And I think that I was just acting reckless and, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing in that time period. So I think when I say, I need you here with me, and I don't care about much else, it's like I know who I am, and I know that person that was a big dreamer, and that person that had so much like love and light, and that's who I generally am. I think I lost for a little bit, so I feel like Only You can be sung to that person, and I think Only You could also be sung to music, because for a minute I started hating music because of what it was doing to my relationship. So I'm in a whole different place now, and I think every time I sing this song now, it's almost like I'm so grateful to have, found strength and found my love for music again. I think that's what it is.
Fantastic. And speaking of this thing, we will hear this and hopefully a couple other songs at a concert you're doing tomorrow night for Sugar Cube. So we got time for about one more question. So tell me a little bit about Sugar Cube, about this concert we're doing right here in the city tomorrow night.
This has been months and months and months and months in the making. I've said I'm a social person. I love this city. Like, the city feels just like home to me, as it's where I truly like came into my own. So the Sugar Cube party, there was so many times that I have been out and just like generally enjoying the nightlife experience, and generally just loving the vibrancy of the city. And so we were brainstorming, and I wanted to do something and attach myself to a cultural event that encompassed everything that I stood for, which is music, nightlife, queer, and just unity. Because I love to see the thing that I love most about the city is the diversity and the types of people that you can get into one room, and to just be able to like host something and bring people together to hear live music, to hear and see other types of visual performers or, you know, performance artists, and have DJs do their thing, and, you know, incorporate just all sorts of special guests and surprises, I think is going to be an amazing thing. And we've been planning it for a long time. A lot of work and time and energy has been going into it. So tomorrow night that is happening.
Tomorrow night,
at
Sugar
Public,
Cube.
yeah.
Looking forward to it at the Public, so you can definitely Google that, research it, like get out there and go to it. Well,
Yes, come through.
So now I think that was our last question. I'm going to toss to the audience. I think we have a couple of questions out there.
Hi.
Hey.
I wanted to ask about your writing process, since it's so personal for you. Do you have to wait for inspiration to come to you, or do you write on like a schedule? What works for you?
I think I have an odd way of doing so. Like in the beginning, when I first started writing, it was I think actually it's always been cathartic, and it always just like comes out and like either hums or you know, just random words, and I'll have my voice notes, and I'll just be the weird person in the corner at a party or something, like, you know, singing into my phone. When I'm in studio, it's a little different than when I'm, you know, at home or on the train or something. In studio, I love to work with musicians. I'm not that great of a musician, but I love to work with piano players, and something about chords, and I need to have like probably like an hour and a half, 2 hour conversation with the person I'm working with before we can really start writing a record, because usually that's when everything's just pouring out, and that musician or that, you know, that instrumentalist strikes one chord, and that's like, oh, that chord made me think of this whole entire story. And I find myself pacing around the room for a good hour or two and just spitting out this song, and I never write it down, which is, I don't know why. I think I like to challenge myself to memorize things.
Has that ever gotten you in trouble?
Huh?
Has that ever gotten you in trouble?
No, because oftentimes when you go to the mic to actually, you know, record the song, and I'll like slip up one word, but I'm like, oh shit, that was better than like, you know. So yeah, mine is very much cathartic, and like, of course, there's times in my life that I've written things down and like, you know, took pieces and put it together for song. But for the most part, I love to just pour it all out.
We got time for one more, I believe.
Hi. So I was wondering if there was any other artists that influence your music.
Yeah, I can get for you know, artists of our past. Amy Winehouse is probably one of my favorite writers, favorite voices. I have her tattooed on my arm. She just, again, is a storyteller. She told the story the way it was, uninhibited, and she really, truly sang from the heart. And I love, if anything, when an artist or a writer you can hear exactly what they're feeling in their vocal performance. So whether that's some grit, whether that's like breaking of the voice or that sort of thing, I really love that. I really love Johnny Cash, who is another storyteller, which is, people are always like, huh?
Surprising, but
Yeah.
actually super cool too.
Well, I mean, even my aesthetic and stuff, I'm really into. He's the Man in Black. So.
Man in Black, right?
So Johnny was just very much to the point storyteller. He hurt a lot. You can tell. You can hear it. And also, another surprising one everyone is always like shocked by is Selena. She, Mexican-American singer from...
I'm going to need everybody here to know who that is.
Okay, yeah, but I've had some people be like, Selena Gomez? And I'm like...
Oh, no.
No shade to Selena Gomez at all, but...
no shade, but that's, we're talking about a different...
Yeah, Selena, actually, I have her tattooed on my arm as well. That was one of the first times as like a 5-year-old kid the movie was on. And at the end of the movie is the bonus footage of her final performance at Houston Astrodome. And my mom had rented this movie, and I was just mesmerized. And I was like, that was the first time I was like, performer. That's what I want to do. And to this day, she's a lock screen on my phone. She's like, I think about her often. She's really remarkable, her voice and her charisma and her story.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing your music, your artistry with us. And give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.